Shields up, Iron Breakers. Rurikhan here, coming at you with another video, and today we're going to be talking about Dauntless. And for those of you who do not know what Dauntless is all about, it is essentially a monster hunting game. It is very much in the same genre as Monster Hunter. In that particular genre, I like to call it the monster hunting genre because, let's face it, there's been a lot of titles that kind of follow in that same gameplay loop, which for those of you that for some reason don't know what that particular loop is, it is a loop that consists of you hunting monsters, taking parts from those monsters, and then crafting armor pieces and weapons, and then going off and hunting even bigger monsters, then breaking those down, taking their parts, and then crafting new armor and new weapons, and going off again to hunt bigger and bigger monsters. And that's kind of like the gameplay loop of what I consider to be the monster hunting genre. So within that particular definition, Dauntless is a monster hunting game. Or maybe I should say Behemoth slaying game, because essentially your characters are called slayers and the monsters are called behemoths. But ultimately, it's a monster hunting game, and in my opinion, it is one that is a lot of fun. Now, the reason why I'm bringing up this particular video at this point in time is because Dauntless is going to be going into open beta on the 24th of May. And in my opinion, this is like the ideal time for people to get into this game, because as we all know, when it comes to free-to-play games, we no longer, at least typically, we no longer have like an actual release date. They just kind of launch with open beta, and it's considered kind of like a soft launch, so you can get in on that point, and then the game will continue to evolve until the developers feel that the game is complete enough to warrant an actual release. But basically, open beta means there's not going to be any more wipes, so 24th of May is like the ideal time for you to get into it. So when it comes to free-to-play games, the first thing that is instantly going to come to mind to most people is going to be, okay, Rurikhan, so it's a free-to-play game. What's in the store? Is it actually worth my time, or are they going to basically nickel and dime me throughout the entire experience? Well, from what I can see so far, the only things I could find in the store are XP and reputation boosts, which will essentially allow you to progress through the game a little bit faster, but you can't actually buy armor, weapons, or anything of that nature, which means that, the essential gameplay loop is still preserved. Now, there are also a bunch of cosmetic stuff, there are transmog stones, there's just tons and tons of cosmetic things. You can paint your armor in different colors. Like, you can be all friggin' fuchsia, I believe, if that's something that you're into. That is, those are the things that they are selling, because ultimately we have to realize they still need to make money. So having the cosmetics in there, I think, is fine. The XP and reputation boosts is not something that I'm a big fan of, because I don't know exactly how that is going to influence your progression, because I've played quite a bit of Dauntless when they first came out with the first closed tests. But ever since they started wiping progress, I was like, I can't be pouring more and more time into this game if they're going to keep wiping it. So I took a big break from Dauntless at that point. So I don't know how important the reputation and experience boosts are. But from what I've been playing over the past couple of days, it doesn't seem particularly meaningful. Like, sure, it will speed up your progression a little bit, but ultimately, I don't think it's that big of a deal, because this is a game that you are going to be playing throughout a long stretch of time. And I think that, again, reputation boosts, at least at this point in time, I don't know how big they are, but I will be reporting on that later down the line as I experience the actual progression system as we move into the open beta. Now, another really cool thing about Dauntless, in my opinion, is hands down its art style, because I really dig the art style. Super colorful, like really vibrant colors, vibrant looking characters, vibrant looking behemoths, really creative. At least, again, in my opinion, from what I've played and experienced, I do feel that there are a couple of animations that still need a couple of touch-ups here and there. The combat now and then can feel a little bit floaty, which I really hope they tighten up these things as we progress into open beta and as the game continues to evolve. These are like my main concerns when it comes to like the animations and the visuals, and naturally optimization as well. I kind of feel like that is a bit of a problem. I've heard a couple of complaints from people complaining about FPS drops and whatnot. Now, I do realize that the GPU on my main gaming computer is pretty friggin' old. It is a GTX 970. And in there, I do notice some frame drops, and I kind of feel like it shouldn't, because the art style actually loans itself to being able to be played on weaker hardware. I just feel like they might need to optimize it a little bit more, okay? But other than that, in terms of like visuals and stuff, I don't really see a big problem. I do like the sounds quite a bit. You get these really impactful, meaty sounds whenever you hit a behemoth, particularly with the hammer. The sounds of the hammer are super impactful, and the other weapons are no slouches either. The only weapon that I haven't gotten to try is the war pike, and I will be talking about that a little bit later down the line in this video, because that is actually a decision that they've made in the game that bothers me quite a bit. But anyways, continuing onwards, I know that at this point a lot of you guys are probably wondering, okay, Rurikhan, so it's a monster hunting game, it's going to be on the PC. Currently we don't have any news of whether or not this is going to come to consoles. My personal prediction is that they're going to be bringing it to the PlayStation 4. Again, this is not confirmed by anyone. This is me speculating just because I feel that that would be a good move for them, particularly for the type of game that it is. But I think that that is still a long ways down the line. And for the foreseeable future, if you want to play Dauntless, PC is probably going to be the platform that you want to go for. You don't want to be waiting for it on consoles or anything like that, because again, that is going to take a long time. But as I was saying, so it's a free-to-play game. It's going to be on the PC. It's a monster hunting game. So what's the point of playing this instead of playing Monster Hunter World? Which is something that I've heard a lot of people talk about in the past. Everybody saying like, dude, why should I play this? I got Monster Hunter World. Monster Hunter World's coming to the PC and all these other things. And you guys know I love Monster Hunter World. Most likely a lot of you guys came to my channel because of Monster Hunter World. But it does bother me a little bit when people start going through this mentality. Why should I play this video game instead of this video game? And it's like, why not both? Because, I mean, essentially the question that you guys are asking is, why should I play Dragon's Dogma instead of Dragon Age? You know, it's like, why? Why should I do that? Well, because they're different games. They provide you with different experiences. They might have a similar gameplay loop. They might be in the same genre, but they still provide you with a different story, a different setting. If they provide you with fresh experiences, that's the point. You know, you shouldn't really be saying, oh, I should play this game, and unless it's the thing where it's like, oh, I can't afford these two games. That's a completely different thing. But the thing is, Dauntless is free. You don't have to like buy Dauntless in order to play it. You can just play it, try it out, and then figure it out for yourself. You know, another example of this is like, why should I play Horizon Zero Dawn instead of playing God of War? Because that's essentially the same thing that you're saying. It's like, why should I play Dauntless instead of Monster Hunter World? It's like, why play Horizon Zero Dawn instead of God of War? Different games, people. That's the thing. They might have similarities in genre. They might have the same gameplay loop. But ultimately, each of these games is its own thing, and it will provide you with a different experience. So, speaking of differences, what is the major difference that I think is going to be the most impactful difference when it comes to like the comparison between Dauntless and Monster Hunter? Because I don't want to do direct comparisons or anything like that, but I do want to warn people about one thing that I think is very important. And this is like, to me, one of the most important differences that you should really bring up instantly. And that is that Dauntless is an online-only game. So you have to actually log into a server, very much like an MMO. There is no single-player experience whatsoever. The only quest that you have that is single-player is the very first quest that you do, which is kind of like a tutorial. You take on a minor behemoth, and you can beat it up pretty bad, and that's that. And the developers themselves have been on record saying, like, look, our game is going to be a co-op game, okay? Like, just straight-up co-op. It is not going to be balanced around single-player at all. And that's just the thing right there. The behemoths in Dauntless, they are designed for multiplayer encounters. That means they are designed taking into account that they expect you to have 4 players there. So if you have 4 players there, you will most likely have an easy, pretty manageable times, depending on which behemoth you are taking down, because, you know, the game's going to be easier at the start. Then it's going to get harder. You're going to have to min-max your equipment to basically match it against the behemoth that you are fighting. But ultimately, the thing here is you can go in solo if you want to, so long as you are aware that the hunt of that particular behemoth is probably going to take longer than if you bring in 4 people, because again, they do not scale it down for single player. The game is not meant as a single player experience. And this is actually one of my main concerns when it comes to Dauntless, because essentially, since it doesn't scale, you know, depending on how many people are going to be playing through the game, it can get to a point where it will be hard for you to find people to match up with the behemoths that you happen to be hunting, depending on how successful the game is. Now, personally, I hope the game is super successful because I actually have a lot of fun playing Dauntless. I think it provides me with a different enough experience from Monster Hunter that I still like coming into Dauntless, playing Dauntless, then going into Monster Hunter, playing Monster Hunter. I think these two games, you can play both of them and not necessarily feel like, oh man, I either play this or I play that, you know? And that's the thing. I hope the game does succeed so that we don't get into a situation where it's like, oh, I need to hunt this specific behemoth and there's nobody there to hunt it, because I think that might be one of the game's major problems. Now, when it comes to combat, the combat, in my opinion, is solid, but it does feel a little bit floaty. Like, some weapons will have special moves. Like, one of the weapons that I like to bring up is the hammer. One of the special moves of the hammer is that you get to do this jumping attack. You basically shoot a round from your hammer, which propels you forward, and then as you are leaping forward, you're able to perform a plunging attack on top of a monster. And what I mean by floaty is that sometimes you land on top of the monster and your character will actually stay there, and it feels a little bit awkward. There are a couple of situations where it does feel like your character is almost like underwater after you get hit, but that is a part of the combat design. They want this combat to be very deliberate. They want the combat to be very precise, and they want every input that you make to count. They want every single attack, every single dodge, everything has to count. This also means that it's going to require quite a bit of practice for you to take down some of these behemoths, because some of they have no qualms putting you down. Like, just straight up, these developers, they have no problem just straight up killing you, one-shotting you if you are not prepared. And this is a good thing. Keep that in mind. I'm not saying this is a bad thing. I'm just saying this is a game that you will have to master its combat in order to really become good at it. In order to really enjoy it and have fun with it, you're going to have to master the weapon of your choice. You're going to have to master the behemoth that you're fighting again. You're going to have to you're going to have to master the types of armor that will be available to you in order to take full advantage of all of these things in order to beat some of the harder behemoths in the game itself. The other cool thing about combat is that it will feel very different depending on the weapon that you choose to play. Very much like Monster Hunter. Each weapon is a completely different fighting style. So in this video, you guys will be seeing clips from the sword, is it called chain blades, I think, which are the dual scythes or whatever, and the hammer, because these are the three weapons that come unlocked from the start of the game. And that right there, the unlock part, is something that I have a serious problem with. But anyway, to give you guys an idea, playing with sword, you will be able to swap between fast attacks that charge up your special move, or you'll be able to do heavier hitting attacks, which also deal additional elemental damage against the monster. So those are heavier hitting attacks, but they will not charge up your special gauge as fast. So depending on how you choose to play it, you're going to have to choose, okay, now it's a good time for a couple of heavy hits. Now let's hang back, take a couple of lighter swings, charge up our special, and then do the special. Once you do the special, you want to definitely just hit the monster as many times as possible, because it's going to charge your weapon with a specific element. So the sword is it's a little bit basic, but ultimately it provides you with enough depth that, you know, it makes it its own thing. Then when it comes to the hammer is basically a boom hammer, so you can actually shoot these charge things that come out of it. It's basically like a shotgun blast. And the cool thing is that the hammer felt very basic on the very first time that I played Dauntless. As a matter of fact, it was one of my main complaints about the game, was that the hammer felt way too basic. And they've changed it. They made the hammer actually be a little bit more complex, providing with this special thing where you can prime your attacks by using the shells on the hammer in order to deal additional damage. They've also done something with the hammer dealing additional damage to the head and being able to do like knockouts on monsters and stuff like that. So that is really cool. They've added a lot of complexity to the hammer. Although I do have to say that right now, I don't even feel super comfortable with the hammer. I kind of feel like the inputs have been slowed down almost to a crawl. You have to be really methodical about when you input a specific attack. Otherwise, it's going to feel, it's going to just basically cue a different attack. I don't know. It feels a little bit awkward with the hammer now for me, but it is still like probably my favorite weapon of the three that are available for you to start. Then you got the chain blades. Chain blades is like your duel's weapon. It is super fast attacks, super fast dodges, And the special ability of the chain blades is that you are able to actually propel yourself towards and away from the monster, which it's basically, it's all about mobility. The chain sickle, or whatever it's called, it's all about being super mobile, being super fast, and just, you know, going in, doing very light hitting attacks, but doing many of them at the same time. Anyway, those are the 3 weapons that are available to you. And like I said, each of these weapons provides with a unique hunting experience when it comes to Dauntless. And naturally, certain weapons will be better for hunting certain behemoths, but you will be able to take on any behemoth with any weapon of your choice. You're just going to have either more mastery of that weapon or more mastery against the behemoth that you are fighting. Okay? Now I'm going to be talking about the weapon progression system, which is something that, like I've been saying throughout the video, that is something that really bothered me. So apparently they've done a study, and some people, when they started playing Dauntless, they were not particularly used to potentially the monster hunting genre or something like that, and they picked up a more complex weapon like the axe. Now the axe is a weapon that I've played, but I haven't played it in the latest iteration of the game, so I don't actually know how much it's changed. But essentially the weapon is a charge-based weapon, which means whenever you start attacking, you're basically going to be planting your feet, and you're going to be trying to charge a really heavy attack. And that is something that I mentioned when I first played Dauntless. I was like, this is one of the weapons that's going to require the most skill, because you're going to have to know the behemoth that you are attacking so that you can actually know when you can plant your feet and do a special charged attack, right? And apparently a lot of people were picking up the axe, and then they would not play the game again because they would get bored, because they didn't know how to play with the axe, and they wouldn't even try the other weapons. And in order to solve that problem, the developers decided to, okay, so we're going to do a progression system, which means that at the start, you can only play with swords, dual chain blades, or the hammer. You can't play with the axe or the warpike. Now, the end result of that is basically, I've never gotten to play the warpike because I don't want to invest a significant amount of time in a game that's going to be wiping 2 days from now. It just doesn't make that much sense, right? And you do have to invest a significant amount of time in unlocking these weapons so that you can then be able to use them. And why does that bother me so much? Because to me, when it comes to a monster hunting game, it's all about, the very start of the game is about mastering a weapon. And I kind of feel that putting weapons, you know, locked behind progression gates, specific weapon types, which basically unlock completely different playstyles in a video game, and locking those behind a progression gate is a serious problem, because right at the start, you're like, I want to try out all the weapons. I want to figure out which weapon I like the most. And they're like, okay, I like this weapon. Now I'm going to master this weapon, because it's going to take a lot of hunts for you to actually master a weapon. And locking it away behind progression is going to make you like, okay, so I guess I have to play this weapon now, even though the weapon that I want to play is the other one that's locked behind. I don't know. To me, that doesn't work in the monster hunting genre. To me, it's like, look, you have all of these weapons available. They should be available from the start. And it's like, if someone doesn't know how to play a specific weapon, then the game just needs to tell them, look, this is an advanced weapon, okay? Consider playing one of the other ones if you have a hard time playing this weapon. The game should tell you that, for sure. But what the game shouldn't do is basically label you as an idiot and like, no, listen, you're too stupid to play this weapon, so we're not even going to let you do it. And to me, that's like one of the biggest gripes that I have with the game right now. But either way, weapons progression aside, the other thing was a problem that I had when I first started playing the game, was a different issue with progression. And that is the progression between behemoths. Now, I don't know if that's been changed. It probably has been changed because they've done so many changes into the game. But basically, when I started playing, I was progressing through all of the behemoths. And I got to this behemoth that was, its main element was lightning. And it was like, for those of you, you guys will probably know the name of the behemoth. I don't actually remember. It was the dog, dude, the Ember Mane, the lightning version of the Ember Mane, if that makes sense, okay? And essentially, this was a monster that was dealing tons and tons of damage, and I wasn't being able to survive. So I was like, okay, so this is a hard monster, deals tons of lightning damage. I need to go and do an anti-lightning armor. So I went to fight the Drask, which was another behemoth that came with lightning-resistant armor because he was a lightning-based behemoth, right? And so I was hunting this behemoth. For starter, there was a glitch because you couldn't there were certain parts that weren't dropping at the appropriate rate, so I farmed and farmed and farmed, and I couldn't get the parts needed in order to actually craft his armor. And then eventually, when I did craft his armor, it's like the Drask was on such a significantly lower league than the Embermane that even though I now had lightning resistance, I now didn't have enough defense. And I kind of felt like there's like a step gap in here that is kind of weird. There's like a progression problem that I can't seem to craft the armor that is going to enable me to be able to face off against this much tougher behemoth. It was weird for me, and that's kind of like when I took a break from Dauntless. But essentially, if they manage to figure out that progression issue that I had, which again, I don't know if this is present in the current iteration of Dauntless. I'm just telling you guys like the whole story of when I played Dauntless. But it's like if they figure that out, and if you're able to progress and not feel like you're hitting these walls that are completely insurmountable, which I like, you guys know me, I love challenging games, okay? I love it, but what I don't like is when a game one-shots me for absolutely no reason and I can't, like, optimize my character in a way that the game is not going to one-shot, essentially. But anyway, I'm excited to check it out. I'm going to be checking it out on the 24th of May. I wanted to give you guys my extensive opinions on what I've played of Dauntless so far, and I will say the game has evolved a lot from when I've played it first in the closed alphas. It has actually been more streamlined because another one of the problems that I had with the prior iterations was that there was a lot of running around in Ramsgate, and I was like, dude, I just want to hunt. And they've actually seemed to streamline that a lot more, and they're much better about getting you into town and setting you up and instantly sending you out to the field again. And that was something that I've been super happy about, because that was a huge problem. It's like, oh yeah, now go here, now go there. It was like FedEx quests all over the place, and that is completely gone. That is a major improvement that they've done. Just like they've improved on other things. They have optimized the game a bit. I still feel they have a ways to go with optimization. Like when I'm running this on my gaming rig on the 970, I get frame drops. When I'm running it on the laptop that I currently have, which has a 1070, it runs fine, but the laptop feels like it's just friggin' taking off with the fans like completely. So I still feel they have a little bit of ways to go with the optimization. But the gameplay, in my opinion, is solid enough that this game is worth your time. And again, remember, it's a free-to-play game. You have literally nothing to lose by trying it out. So, in my opinion, Iron Breakers, try out Dauntless on the 24th of May if your computer is powerful enough to run it. Try it out and see if you like it. And also, let me know in the comment sections. If you're already playing it, let me know what you think about Dauntless. If you're thinking about playing it, and if you're watching this video after having played it, let me know what you thought about the experience, all of that stuff in the comment section below. If you guys enjoy my videos, consider subscribing, hitting the bell icon for the notifications so that you actually receive notifications to all of my videos. The end slate is going to be coming up right about now on the video, so if you guys want to watch something else, consider watching one of the two videos being featured right now in the channel. Thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next one.